Hello, we are working on attributes of similar figures. So we have these little letters here. This is not what you think, that are going to tell us ways to remember our attributes of similar figures. You literally may have a question that specifically asks about this, but I will let you know these right here you want to make sure you know for your quiz. So let's write it down really quickly. Similar figures have. Okay, so I know what you think when you think of CPS. That's not what this is. Similar figures have corresponding proportional sides. Okay, corresponding proportional sides. That means I can literally set up a proportion to find the missing side. Okay, set up a proportion of corresponding sides to find the missing side. CCA will be the same first word, corresponding congruent angles. Okay, so I think of like triangles. We have sides and angles. So corresponding proportional sides, corresponding congruent angles. SF, even though it's our shortest one here, it's going to be our longest one. Similar figures have sides that change by the same scale factor. Sides that change by the same scale factor. All that means is, for instance, we have something called the special right triangle. Draw that in. 3, 4, 5. It's a special right triangle. All that the scale factor is. So if I say that we have a scale factor of 3, then I would be able to create a larger triangle. I don't really have much room to make it a larger triangle, but we're going to pretend that these sides each change by times 3. Okay, so the lengths change by times 3. So 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 3 is 12, 5 times 3 is 15. Okay, so this would be a similar figure. Okay, the sides change by the same scale factor. So we will have corresponding proportional sides, corresponding congruent angles. By the way, that would mean this angle is the same as this angle. So I want you to think about it this way. If I have a small square and a big square, even though this is larger, this angle, it didn't change. It's still 90 degrees. It's still a 90-degree angle. So similar figures have corresponding congruent angles. Okay? So what we're going to do is we are going to use the idea of corresponding congruent angles to find the missing side of this shape. This little symbol here means similar. Okay, when you see that. Okay, now if you can tell, these shapes are not oriented the same, meaning they are flipped. So this tells us right here the order. So PQRS, that means P, the first letter here, is the same as T. Okay, PQ is first two, goes with TU. Okay, they have to match. Okay, doesn't mean they're the same length, but that means those correspond. Those correspond. Okay, so what I do whenever, and there's different ways of doing it, I like to do a big to small proportion or a small to big. I'm doing big to small because I literally see the big shape first. Okay, so on the big shape, I see an X, and I need to find what it matches with. Well, when I look at it, I believe it matches with 15, so I'm going to put that. But if I don't know, I'm going to look up here. PS, that's the first and the last. That has to match with the first and the last, TW. Well, look right there, TW. Those match, those correspond. Okay, now I'm coming back over here. And looking at my big shape, I only have one more value, and that's 35. So that goes on the big shape. Okay, so x and 35, x and 35. Now on the small, I believe it will be this 25 that goes with this. I can double check that. 35 is SR or RS. Those are the last two. So that means it would be the last two here, VW. Well, what do you see? VW, okay? 25, okay? And then we just cross multiply. So you would do 25x 35 times 15. We want to make sure we can do this. 35 times 15. Okay, 5 times 5, 25. Carry the 2. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 2 is 17. Hold my spot. Some of you like a 0. It's fine. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 3 is 3. 5, 12, 5. Okay, so 525. And then hopefully we remember our last step is we divide by whatever is in front of our x. So I'm going to do 525 divided by what? Divided by 25. Okay, so I know 25 won't go into 5, but I love 5s because, 25s because I think of quarters. I know 25 goes into 52. 2 times, like 50 cents. 2 times 25 is 50. I have 2 left and bring down the 5. 25 into 25 goes 1. So x is 21. Now before I move on, I'm just going to look to make sure this is reasonable. Okay? So one thing I know, this is 15. I said this is 21. One thing I know is this is reasonable because 21 should be larger than 15. This side should be larger than 15 because this is the bigger shape, okay? And another thing I know is it should be smaller than 35 because 15 is smaller than 25, 21 is smaller than 35. Those are just a couple little things that we can check to make sure this is reasonable, okay? So we're going to do one more. And this says the triangles shown are similar. Find x. Okay? So I'm going to do a big to small proportion. Triangle ABC is similar to EFD. Remember, ABC, EFD. A, here's A. That's my right angle. Goes with A. Okay? This is a little harder to tell, okay? But what I do know is I know I need x. X is on the big shape, okay? So I'm going to put x here. I have to find what it matches with. So let's say if we're struggling, x, which is AC, so first and last, okay? AC. So that means I need first and last, ED. Right there, which is 3. Okay, so I'm going to darken that. These two go together. Okay, now this is kind of a choice. Okay, I have all my values here. If it were me, I would choose 35, which is BC. I would choose 35 because I think it's easier to work with than 28. That's literally the only reason. 35 is going to be easier. Okay. So I'm going to put 35 here, and now I have to figure out what it matches with. So BC are the last two. That means it matches with FD. FD, which is 5. Some of you can tell that. I'm one of those, I can tell that that's what it's going to match with. Also, I can tell that it's opposite the right angle. Okay? Then I just cross multiply, and that is going to be my answer. Now, if you see a relationship somewhere, you might can solve it using that, okay? So I have 5x on one side. I have 35 times 3, 15, carry the 1, 9 plus 1 is 10. I know I'm doing my math kind of fast, but you can pause the video. Then we divide by 5 and divide by 5, okay? So 105 divided by 5. Okay? 5 won't go into 1. 5 into 10 is 2. 10, 0. Pull down the 5. I put a 0 for some reason. 5 into 5 is 1. So, again, I have another 21. It does not always work out that way. X is equal to 21. So, as I'm looking at this, remember 3 was the shortest side. This is the shortest side. So, it should be less than 28. Okay? Just to check for reasonableness.